Hello, everyone, and welcome back to JaianMusic Notes. Extremely excited about today's episode. This one's for the Ghibli fans. This one's for the millennials. This one's for the people who appreciate a good anime film. We're going to deep dive the music in My Neighbor Totoro. And my neighbor for this podcast today is former anime podcaster's guest, former Soundspace guest, and now a guest on JaianMusic Notes. He's doing all of them. Jacob Lacroix Cardinal is amongst us this evening. How are you, my friend?
Yo.
How you feeling, dude?
Feeling good, bro. How are you?
Dude, I'm doing good. I'm excited to have you on. I'm so happy you decided to give this very experimental anime music podcast a chance to be a guest on.
Yes, sir.
For those who are unfamiliar with you, and you're a music guy 100%, you're an anime guy 100%, like, what's your background with music, with anime? Just kind of give it before we get into Totoro itself.
Sure, dude. So a bit about me. Grew up in Cornwall, Ontario, moved to Montreal to start my music engineering career. I've been engineering for probably the last decade now, and mixing pop records full-time, all the time. And anime-wise, I grew up on the good shit, Can I swear on this, Jaian? Is it okay?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Fuck yeah, bro. I grew up on Naruto. I grew up on, what else? Like, mostly Naruto, actually. Dragon Ball Z, Beyblade, represent. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a big one. Especially Dragon Ball Z when I was young, though. So that's how it started. And then, obviously, in your early teens, you kind of stray away from that stuff because you're like, oh, girls and like high school and then recently deep dived back into anime probably in the last probably since we've known each other, really. I rewatched.
I would say so.
Yeah, probably like maybe the last 8 years. I've dove back into it. I rewatched all the Naruto, all the Shippuden. I started Boruto and it sucked, so I stopped that. I did just so many, like recently, like Solo Leveling Season 2, I gotta watch now. All the new stuff, dude. And now we're here to talk about My Neighbor Totoro because I've never actually seen it, believe it or not. I have watched it in passing because when I mix, I like to have anime stuff on the TV in front of me because it's kind of cool.
Absolutely.
The art is nice, so I like to have that. So I've seen it visually, but I've never actually paid attention to it that much. So it's kind of an eye-opening experience. It's a good movie, kind of sad, but kind of joyful.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna get into all that. I guess I also have to do this thing where I do it now, like at the beginning of every podcast, and just shortly and briefly thank the sponsor, Laser Audio Technologies. It's a plugin company that creates creative effects plugins. They have a free one, and they have a bunch of really cool ones like Ram and Glow. And if you use code JaianMusic, you get 25% off your next purchase. And by supporting the sponsor, you support JaianMusic Notes. Every dollar of that goes back into the podcast, such as GoPro Kyo, who does all of the artwork.
Hey.
Absolutely. For me, like, My Neighbor Totoro, like the idea of just watching it without sound and just aesthetically it works. It makes sense to me. It's whimsical. It's heartwarming, like just visually. But then you peel back the layer and you actually put on a pair of headphones and you try it. And I find that there's a realm of soundtracks here that's like, for me, it's quite nostalgic because I definitely watched Totoro as a child. But like Path of the Wind, there's so many classic pieces. Like there's so many good pieces. What was like your first impression? Like even like not even having to get into the music itself just yet. What was your like first impression of the music and everything?
I would say right off the bat, I was very like surprised at how live it felt when I listened to the music.
Yeah,
when you let's say the couple few scenes of the movie, it's all like live band, horns, strings. Some the intro song has vocal, but otherwise it's all instrumental pretty much the whole movie.
Yes.
And it's all very like mostly all live band stuff with like little articulations, strings, horns. It felt like it was done in a studio. Probably dude showed up with his charts with some paid string players, paid horns players, and he's just like, okay, here's the charts. We're gonna film all these snippets, and that's it. We're gonna record all these snippets, and that's kind of what it felt like. It was kind of refreshing. It wasn't a bunch of electronic stuff programmed. It felt pretty live.
No, it feels very live to me as well. I think I feel it also in the strings mostly. I feel like they have that like that room. I really feel like they have that like nice spatialization to them where it's like really open and breathy. But it's also a very orchestral soundtrack. There's a lot of piano work, or a lot of really cool articulation with strings, and it's like for you and maybe the unacquainted, the composer of this film, Joe, and I hope I'm not butchering this, Hisaishi, Hisaishi, composes mostly, I want to say like 98% of the music in Studio Ghibli films. It's like you're taking the same composer over and over and over again. And so you're at this point when Totoro was made, a few Ghibli films had been created, so that collaboration had started, and you can definitely see like the progress of it. And like it's at that point when Totoro came out, it definitely like the chemistry was there.
There's already like an identity in the soundscape. Which is kind of important in those movies, and what's funny, it's kind of off topic, but I think I don't know how many Ghibli movies there are, but I've only seen Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke. So
oh really?
This was like one that was on the list for a while. I haven't seen Howl's Moving Castle. I haven't seen I don't even. There's so many now, but there's a new one that came out.
24, Jacob.
Jesus.
24 according to
there's one that came out this year, late last year that I haven't seen yet either.
Boy in the Air.
I'm very curious to see how those compare sonically to what I heard in this film. And I would almost go back because it was very interesting to watch this film. For those listening, I literally watched it like 20 minutes before this podcast recording. So I was in the studio. I finished my day mixing. I sat down, I went to the store, I got some Miller Lights because I wanted to chill out. I watched the whole movie, front to back, ordered some food, and I literally finished the movie 20 minutes ago, and we're hopping on this podcast recording right now. So it's very fresh. It was very cool to sit down and listen through this thing in a studio, out of the speakers, and like pay attention to the music. Sometimes you get carried away with the images and the art, which is also beautiful. It's a separate thing, but you get carried away with the story. You don't pay so much attention to the music, which is maybe how it should be, right? That's how I think as creators.
Yeah, film music, I feel like it's music to be like not forgotten, but you're supporting a storyline. You're not the main focus.
It's there to be felt and not heard, maybe.
Exactly.
As far
I agree
as
with that.
That kind of stuff. But it was cool to actually sit down, and every time a musical passage came on, I paid very close attention to it and how it made me feel and how it compared to what was happening in the film. And it was cool. I think everybody should try that once in a while. Take a movie you've watched 1,000 times, but sit down and watch it with headphones and listen to the music like intently with intention, and like I took notes, dude. Like that's how lame I was. I took notes of like certain things and how it made me feel when it happened,
I mean, as far as your notes are concerned, like I have so many jumping points. I mean, I guess for me, like a big reoccurring theme. I feel like I have broader stroke stuff. So if you have some really detailed stuff that fits the mold, like please, like take the conversation wherever it feels most, or it makes the most sense. But for sure, like in my mind, the music felt minimalistic, but still very grandiose. I think grandiose because of the literal like layers of instrumentation. Like so many
arrangements
strings.
Are crazy. Yeah, the arrangements are
crazy. Yeah. How did you feel about the arrangements? Let's maybe go there. Let's like the arrangements themselves. Like,
I mean,
how did you interpret them?
I'm not an expert in music. I mix it, but I don't write it, so I can't speak to the music nerds necessarily. But like, the arrangements felt not super dense. They felt kind of airy. A lot of different instruments playing similar parts, and the counter melodies are not stepping on each other's toes. It's kind of like, especially in. Well, I would say most of the scenes of the entire movie, there's usually a main theme, there's supporting chords, and there's twinkles and bells. That's it.
Yeah, a little bit of ear candy at the end.
As simple as that. And I find what this brings is like, especially in the earlier parts of the movie, there's a lot of wonder. There's a lot of like twinkle, and it makes you feel like, it's wonder. It's like delightful, and you're discovering, and it's these kids like, going into the bushes and finding a very weird bear with weird ears, and they're just like, I don't know, man. They're just imagining. It's like imagination. That's what it sounds like.
It's pure imagination. This movie,
Yeah.
for sure. I think imagination is a perfect all encapsulating word. Like, think about the imaginative. Like, think about the music. Think about the art. Like, think about like the atmosphere and how it's all tied together. Like, it's pure imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that like we were talking about how it's like live orchestration. But when I was researching like on Wikipedia and stuff on this film, I saw that there was the use of a Fairlight synthesizer. So I was kind of like curious, like, oh, what's a Fairlight synthesizer? And it's like a digital like synthesizer. So I don't know where I don't. Did you ever hear like any type of like clavier type stuff that like really like
I got it
those like
in the notes,
analog synths?
So
like,
most of it is live instruments, but specifically, I mean, a lot of the bells are probably synths too. But when you're watching the scene where they first see the house, where they walk up to the house, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what was happening, what the dialogue was, but there was the soundtrack was much more electronic feeling. It wasn't as live instrument centered. And it was kind of interesting because that's the first time we hear not horns and strings. You hear something else.
Like not non-orchestral music.
Yeah, like in the scene where they just come to the house. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick and listen.
Yeah,
to
of course. And as you pull it up, like I was just like looking into it, and it's a Fairlight CMI is apparently what would have been used from like what I was like researching earlier. Introduced in 1979 by Fairlight, so they make all these like different types of digital synthesizers, and I think it's like, as far as I know, Fairlight is one of the earliest electronic like music synthesizers like ever made.
There it is.
So yeah, you got it.
I don't know if you would be able to hear this, but it starts with flutes.
Yeah,
and then as soon as you get a view of the house, there's like like a bass synth that comes in.
Very cool. Very cool. I think that must be the Fairlight in that case.
Literally like a 4 on the floor.
Gong,
Gong, gong, gong, gong. And there's a bunch of perks going on and stuff. It's like the first time you hear an arrangement that's like not classical sounding.
And why, in your opinion, why use that on a scene with like a large view of the house? And
because the house looks like shit, bro. And I think they're kind of playing to that, where it's like a little bit chaotic. Things are falling apart. Literally, what the girls,
clunky. It's weird.
Yeah, like this poor guy. His wife's in the hospital. He's got 2 kids taken care of by himself, and he probably bought this house because the hospital was the only place that his wife could go to. So he bought this house for him and the family. And it's like, it's pretty run down, dude. It's pretty crappy looking. The girls are playing with like a post holding up like a awning. And it's like all rotten, and they're like having fun. They're pushing the post, but the things, like all the wood's falling on top of them. And this song is playing in the background. It just feels chaotic.
Wow. Interesting.
I think it kind of plays to the whole like energy of that scene, where you kind of get this sense of like, this dad is poor and he's having a hard time with life, but his daughters are so excited about this house. It's haunted, and they're playing off the fact that it's haunted. They're like, yeah, I love haunted houses. It's so much fun. The girls are running around. They see these little weird floaty black dudes just like flying around, the little floaty like bugs there, whatever they're called. I can't remember what they're called. Mites, soot mites or something like that.
Ghibli flies.
I don't remember what they're called. Yeah, I think
it's okay. We're not here for fact checking. We're just here for musical vibes, bro.
That whole scene is a little crazy. I think that's why when you bring in the electro stuff with the weird perks,
it makes sense. There's like a few like standout songs that like I've covered over the years that I really like and like want to like quickly highlight. I obviously know like by name. It's not, since you just saw the movie, it's not gonna like maybe like come to mind, but like just like outside of the opening and the closing theme, the music that's super playful song they play at the very end with the cat bus, where they're like, all right, let's go back.
Oh, when they go back to the hospital.
Yeah, we're going back. I love the arrangement on that. It's just this like it's like, all right, like it's like adventurous, melodic, explorative. It's got all these like really nice tonal vibes going on that I was like definitely digging for sure. Like it's a really cool it's a really cool arrangement they did.
I'm
there. But I
listening
think
to
you
it
described
as you're
really
talking
well.
about it.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, I think maybe not that one as much, but like it's definitely the way you were saying, like, oh, like a main melody, supporting strings, and like ear candy. I think you're summing up about 80% of the film soundtrack just by like that. That's the instrumentation of like a basic instrumentation, like with like reoccurring motifs, like and in the themes of Totoro and the other
And
one.
this
too is
movie
Path of
has
the
a
Wind.
reoccurring theme too. I think like a reoccurring melody that seems to happen quite a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I was telling Jacob off recording, but when I went to Japan, the first thing I bought in a gift shop was this like snow globe, like Totoro mechanism that like you pull the wheel back and you spin it and it just plays the
You should
lead
play it in the
melody.
microphone, bro. Let the
I
audience
could,
hear it.
but
It's gonna
I
be
think
so long.
copyright might not be a friend of.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, trying to stay monetized on this one, but please go listen to the covers I've made.
Respect the
in
law.
the original. Yeah, and respect the law. Respect the law.
Very nice. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
good movie, dude. Like the artworks, the soundscapes, and everything. I know we're here to talk about the music more so, but the just Ghibli movies, they know how to get you, man, with the art.
Absolutely, they really do. They really do. Well, maybe like since we're here, like you said, talk about the music and stuff. Is there like another note that like you really like? If there was like that one note you wanted to like get off your chest, you've been holding on to it everything ever since you wrote it down. Is there anything like of note that you wanted to like absolutely get into?
Nothing particular, only the fact that I found this movie in general, maybe it differs from other movies because it's quite light as far as a movie goes. Like it's not a
Yes.
very heavy movie. It's not like Princess Mononoke. That's very heavy. Spirited Away is maybe similar, but it's very like all the music in this movie, for the most part, never made me feel sad. And it was even during the more down parts of the movie, the music
Right.
was not like a bummer. You know, it was always kind of uplifting. There was always like, you know, happy sounding melodies. There was always a lot of bells. They love those kind of bells. They make you feel. I know
Bells and Ghibli music are like one. Hand
I
in
know.
hand.
They make you feel curious and inquisitive. That's what I wrote here.
Curious and inquisitive are great words. I would absolutely agree. I think you gotta look at.
I wrote in the notes,
like-
single dad, sad, bro, because I didn't know that the mom was in the hospital. I was like, oh, he's a single dad and he's taking care of these two kids and he bought a shithole house, and I felt kind of really bad for her. And then they're,
That's how they
they're
get
like,
you,
we're gonna go visit mom in the hospital. I was like, ah.
That's how they get you. That's how they get you, dude.
Yeah.
But like, I just feel like you were saying like, oh, this particular movie, the soundtrack was very happy.
Mm-hmm.
If you like do a zoom out and do like look at like the 20 plus Ghibli films, I think this one has to be one of the happier soundtracks for sure. But then you have films like Grave of the Firefly that have like really, really sad themes. Like this is one of those like films where like someone's like, oh, what's this film called? I want to watch it on social media, and people are like, don't watch it. It's too sad. Like I'm doing you a favor by telling you not to watch it. But at the end of the day, I do feel like we're looking at more like major chords and like major keys to represent these like happier sounding tracks. As far as I know, they're mostly major. I could be wrong, but they definitely felt major when I listened to them back. And then like obviously the recurring themes are like super cool. But the one thing I did want to say is like I feel like you have like an emotional difference in the soundtrack where some of them feel like super lively, like super active, like that Kappa song at the very end where they're like going back to the hospital. But then you got like when it's the nighttime, you have those more like reflective pieces, like more slower, like maybe like a little bit of a solo piano section type deal.
I noticed that happens a lot. Yeah, it happens a lot in the kind of these. It's not like full on song parts of the movie. Like let's say when the seeds are growing into the big ass tree in their dream, like that they dreamt of, that's like a full on song. There's an arrangement, there's a melody, everything. But throughout a lot of the movie, there's these little interjections during certain scenes where there's small little flurries of strings, pizzicato parts, dunk, 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 like during these weird, you know, they're walking through the tunnel, right? They're crawling through the tunnel to go see Totoro. And it's like these little string pizzicato things where there's no really
sonic
arrangement.
structure.
There's no arrangement.
Yeah.
It's just interjections of like little sounds and stuff. I thought it was very tasteful.
No, absolutely, very tasteful, and I feel like it once again goes to the like when I studied film music, a thing I always was told, like, like music's just support the story, but it's also like support the scene, which is a piece of the story.
Yep.
And I feel like those small fragments of pizzicato strings, pardon me, tongue twister for that one for some reason, is supporting the scene and is a smaller piece of the puzzle to like the full soundtrack.
Well, if you go
'cause no
back,
one's gonna be like, what?
if you go back and watch again for the listeners too, pay attention to the scene where she's picking up the acorns and following the trail into the trees. May, the little one, she's picking up the acorns. She's noticing like a trail of acorns. Every time she picks one up, there's like there's like this like blast of like certain. There's like a little string thing, and then there's like a womp every time she picks one up. So it's like womp, womp, womp. I can't remember what the instrument was. It's like maybe a horn or something. But they like to play the music as a Foley effect almost.
I think there's a term, and I don't know if it applies as much here, but it's called Mickey Mousing, and it's when the music literally matches to the screen. Like it's like a musical sound design. Yeah, exactly.
They're walking or doing
they're walking and a little wah wah at the footsteps. Like there's like definitely some like hints of Mickey Mousing. In
Looney Tunes is a good example of that. Yeah, true. Because every time something happens, there's like some flurry of instruments of some sort. There's some crashes that go off when the Roadrunner hits the wall. There's like a big crash. You know what I mean? That supports the scene, like you say.
Yes, absolutely. You were saying earlier about how there's only it's like all instrumental except for the opening that had like a vocal. You're someone, I think this is like an interesting topic for you to ask you, because not all my guests are like recording engineers who record like vocals like you. What did you think about like maybe the vocal recording, the vocal engineering, like any like thoughts on like how that was recorded? Because there's not a lot of like anime soundtracks that I talk about where like we kind of get into the vocal production of it, and you're someone who records a lot of vocals. So if you had any takes on that, I'd be really curious.
I mean, no big takes on it, but because they only have vocals in the intro song and the outro song.
Yes.
And both are the same singer as far as I remember. Both is the same vocalist. Let me check real quick. Stand by. Let me see.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the vocals
at least the English versions are. That's true. I should probably check the Japanese versions.
Yeah.
I think it's same girl.
Totoro singer.
Yeah. Same singer in Japan, Japanese, and same singer in English.
Azumi Inoi.
And very like one lead vocal. No vocal arrangement. It's just like lead vocal. Here's the lyrics. This is what we're talking about. There's no distractions. There's no ad-libs. There's no back vocals. Nothing like that. And when you listen to the Japanese version, it's very interesting. And then you switch to the English version. The production quality of the English version is very different than the Japanese version.
So what differences do you
The
notice?
Japanese version, it's very much more like arrangement focused, instrumental focused, where everything is bigger. The band sounds bigger. And then the vocals kind of narrow, but with lots of reverb. And then in the English version, everything sounds more narrow and thinner, like almost like the mix is not as good as the mix from the 80s. You know, like this is a remastered version, I think, pretty much with the English dub. So it's like everything kind of sounds more narrow and the vocals drier and it's not as impressive. But then in the Japanese version, it's like this kind of small vocal, but like big reverb. And then the instrumentals just feel that much bigger. Now, I don't know if that's just because they took the stems from the Japanese version and
I'm wondering if it's
remixed
a two-track is what I'm thinking. The
could
way
be.
You talk about it?
Yeah, it could be. Because
the way
the
you're talking about
instrumental is
it,
the same.
sounds like that. Yeah. It sounds like a two-track or like a really like simple export of the stems. Like a really basic like stem balance mix or something.
Yeah, it sounds like shit, dude, the English version compared to the Japanese version.
I mean, Japan does it right, is all I'm going to say. I'm not trying to dog anyone here.
It sounds so much better. And the horns are more crazy. You know what it sounds like? Like they might have reproduced for the English dub. Like it's not the original instrumental audio.
Could be.
Yeah, it sounds like they reproduced it or they just really messed it up in the post-production process because it doesn't sound nearly as good as how the Japanese version sounds.
Fair enough. This is a little bit of inside baseball, but if I'm not mistaken, there's a because when I went to Japan, I love talking about this. I'm so sorry. I always talk about it. Like every other episode.
I'm very jealous.
Okay, I'm sorry.
In case you didn't know, listeners, Jaian went to Japan. Okay? In case you didn't know this. In case it wasn't clear.
Bro, screening a clip for me.
In case you didn't know.
Anyways, there is a May and the Cat Bus short film available in the Studio Ghibli Museum. Like a short film that's only available to be broadcast there.
About the cat bus?
Yeah.
That's wild.
If I'm not mistaken. Wait, May and the Kitten Bus short film. Let me just triple check.
I wonder if it's
like I remember seeing
accessible.
this. May and the Kitten Bus. Oh, Internet Archive. There's like a little thing here. Oh my God, there's a rip of it. Yeah, there's a. It is
May
available
and the Baby Cat
in
Bus. One episode, September 30th, 2022. Or 2002, sorry.
Yeah, there is something like of that sort. May and the Cat Bus. The film tells a lighthearted story of May and her adventures with the kitten bus, a child version of the Cat Bus, and it's available in Mitaka Tokyo and Cinema Orion in the Studio Ghibli Museum. Absolutely worthwhile to like go check that out one day. But like that's what I really like about the Studio Ghibli lore. There's so many little things you can go and explore. Like within the music, just researching it, I found a lot of cool like little tidbits about like, oh, this is a synthesizer they use, like all this stuff. There's like all these little like production notes, and like even like on the production side of it, actually, like, because we were talking about the synthesizer, we talked about like the scene it's associated to. What did you think about like? Because My Neighbor Totoro came out what year? What year would it come out? My Neighbor Totoro release date in 1988. Okay,
That's
1988 is you and I weren't even like born yet, right?
I was negative 6 years old.
Yeah, you're negative 6 years old, exactly. This is one of the oldest animes I've talked about on the podcast so far. But like on the production side, like Joe Hisaishi like used like analog synthesis on this, like alongside like traditional Japanese orchestration. Like that's at the time. Like that's cutting edge technology. That's like a really cool little approach. Like we're not even in the 90s yet, dude. Like
I was gonna say that in my spiel of notes that I took, I was impressed that for the first couple scenes, including the intro song, it's all live band. Kind of classic arrangement. Where instrumentation. I mean, like drums, bass. There's horns. There's strings. There's probably some acoustic guitar in most of the songs as well. And it's like that first scene that we were talking about earlier where they come up to the house and there's like a synth and there's like these perks that don't sound like traditional percussions. Like maybe they're from the world music like era of like different, or maybe they're traditional Japanese percussions that I haven't heard of before. Because you're hearing these perks with this like big old bass synth playing like literal like quarter notes on every beat. And you're like, oh shit, this is not what I expected from a movie in the 80s. No,
it's crazy. It's crazy. Like it's cutting edge. Like it definitely for its time, cutting edge. And like I think when you said like, what were the 3 movies you watched of Ghibli again? You said Spirited
Princess
Away,
Mononoke, Spirited Away, and this one.
Okay, yeah, that's like as far as I can. I mean,
when did Princess Mononoke come out? Let's see.
I think it was after Totoro for sure.
Princess Mononoke, 1997. Yeah, I was 3 years old.
Yeah. But I feel like those 3 are the big 3 of Ghibli.
Spirited Away, 2001
as well. Yeah. You could argue Ponyo if you wanted to, but like those are like one of the like top 3 like biggest like Ghibli films for sure. Let me see here. Let me go back to my notes.
Ponyo, 2008. The Wind Rises, 2013. Grave of the Fireflies, that's the one you were mentioning, 1988, so within that same era. 1986, Castle in the Sky, that's old.
Castle in the Sky, another classic. Oh, dude, you got to watch that one too. Hey, if you want to be a resident Ghibli, come in and give it your 2 cents spiel podcast guest, like, feel free.
1979, bro. 1972, Panda Go Panda.
Yeah. No, these go way back. Actually,
damn.
You know what? Talking about like how far back it goes and the reach, like, did you know you knew of this film? Like, but I feel like I just want to highlight how I don't know how much you have to say about this point, but like the soundtracks has like huge influence and is like known worldwide as like one of the most famous anime music film scores as far as I know. like this one is one of like the classic those melodies. Like I was literally working on a gig today, and someone was whistling the melody of the opening of Totoro. Like it's stuck in people's heads. Like almost 30 years later.
Well, you and I went to see the Candlelight anime show. Remember
we did.
The quartet, and you were naming off all these like, theme songs from popular animes and stuff. And I'm not nearly as well versed in the musical side of the anime stuff, but Totoro came back 2 or 3 times throughout the whole concert, I think, because they have 3 or 4 main themes throughout the movie.
Yes, absolutely. It's like I want to like absolutely highlight like how influential this soundtrack has been, and like honestly, it inspired the whole. I did this like Christmas album. I decided to take anime Studio Ghibli soundtracks and like flip them and like just do like pianos and bells, because like you had bells and it becomes a Christmas song. It was a bit of a meme. Well, Studio Ghibli has so many bells in it. It just made perfect sense. I was like, Ghibli Christmas is like, it's a collab. Like it just needs to exist. It just needs to be on the internet.
Giblips. Gibblemas.
Yeah, I just called it a Ghibli Christmas, but that's.
I think Gibblemas is better.
Gibblemas. I don't know how you spell that.
No, me either.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like very dyslexic to try to spell that. I'll be honest. Like, I feel like I've hit every like big note I want to say. Is there like any other major things?
Stand by. I'm going to read through my notes to see if there's any highlights.
Yeah. Please.
That I put down.
Please. Jacob is currently looking through his booklet.
Yeah, for the listeners. Dude really bought a shithole was one of my notes.
On the soundtrack, my guy. Yo, that smile on your face is ridiculous.
Well, because guys, okay, so I was watching the movie and I was like, okay, I gotta at least have some things to talk about with Jaian, because it's not really like I'm not a music guy. Like I work in music, yes, but I'm not a composer. I'm not an arranger. So I was like, let me take notes about scenes and how they make me feel. And I ended up just getting carried away and just taking notes about random shit. Like cute intro, but what the hell does this have to do with the movie? Because it's like the intro is like a bunch of things dancing and they're like marching, and it's like a marching band song with vocals on top. And I'm like, what does this have to do with this movie? I thought this was a sad movie. And then as the story goes on,
Totoro why and when did you think it was a sad movie?
I don't know. I'm like, oh, Spirited Away, not sad, but kind of weird. Kind of imaginative and strange.
Yeah, absolutely.
Princess Mononoke, kind of stressful.
Yeah.
Kind of stressful. And I don't know. I thought My Neighbor Totoro, I remember hearing something about a wife being sick, and I was like, oh, it's going to be a very sad movie. And then the whole intro song is like, like a marching band song with a bunch of like cat things dancing around. And I was like, what the hell does this have to do with the movie? It sounds childish. Like it sounds like a children's song. And then as I go through the movie, I'm like, okay, this song is literally about children and their imagination. So cool. Later on, pretty well mixed for an 80s movie. LOL. It was one of my notes.
I completely agree with that. Like I said, cutting edge.
Because I was listening to the width of stuff. And, back in the 80s, I'm sure that was when did stereo become a thing, right? Like when did stereo production or stereo music become a thing? When did stereo music start? 1950s. Okay, it's been around for a long time. So Jacob, shut up. You don't know anything. Yeah. I was gonna say like, oh, bro, the 80s. Things were still in mono back then. Just shows how old I am. I'm like 94, baby. I don't know anything. But yeah, so I don't know. I thought the mix was
94 kids.
I thought the mix was incredible. I was like, shit, this sounds like. Especially when you're listening on headphones.
This mono mix hits, bro.
Yeah, this mono mix sounds so left-right, bro.
That ping pong delay in that mono mix goes crazy.
I encourage everybody to watch, like, let's say you have your favorite movies. It doesn't have to be an anime necessarily. I know we're talking about anime here, but like, example, Interstellar would be a great movie I would love to rewatch, but with headphones, because I'm sure that the Hans Zimmer arrangements sound crazy in stereo, When you're watching on a TV, cool, it is kind of stereo, but you're so far away from the TV that it just sounds mono anyways. And it's such an interesting perspective to rewatch these things in stereo with like either in front of some speakers, or maybe you have a hi-fi setup at home, or you just listen on headphones. It was a cool experience, to hear that. And for something that was made in the 80s, I was like, oh shit, this sounds really nice.
Yeah.
And another note, wonder and awe and excitement. is a big note that I had here.
Love it.
That's kind of what this whole movie is about, right?
Yeah.
For most of it, it's like making light of a kind of a dark situation, right? Their mom is sick in the hospital. At the end, we never really know if she's okay. They just say at the last closing scene, I don't know if you remember, but they just talk. They're just like, oh, I don't know why they had to send a telegram because I just had a cold. You know, and you're like, okay, but maybe they sent the telegram because you had a cold, but you also have like, you know, lung cancer. So when you have a cold, it's not good. You know, so it's like, it kind of leaves you in the dark, but the whole movie is kind of like, it's about a bit of a sad thing, but because it's almost from the point of view of the children, you don't feel that much. There's only really one sad scene in the entire movie, or two sad scenes. There's the scene where they get the telegram and they say that the doctor says that mom's not coming home this weekend because she has a cold. She has to stay at the hospital. And then obviously the older sister, I can't remember her name, Satsuki was like, what if mom's gonna die? And then the younger girl, was kind of being argumentative to that. Like, no, she's going to come home. Like, you're lying. It's like, blah, blah, blah. And then Satsuki's like, oh, stop being a child. You're just a baby. And then she starts crying. Mei starts crying. Satsuki runs. The little boy that's like their friend was chilling there, not sure what the hell to do with himself. And that was a sad scene because I was like, shit, that's pretty realistic. You know, Satsuki's hurting in her own way. She takes it out on her sister. Her little sister is very confused and not understanding the situation, obviously, because she's like 4 years old. And it was really sad to see that. And then the next scene, the only other scene that's sad is when Mei goes missing. Yeah,
there's not a lot of major sadness. There's like sad moments, but like the storyline here, like it all works out.
It all works out. I think it would be cool to get some closure. We gotta write to Ghibli, send him a telegram, say what happened.
Yeah, get a ticket, Mei and the Kitten Bus, bro.
Let's do a support ticket. Send a support ticket. Ask him what the hell happened.
Yeah. Cool. All right, right on. Any other like fine details that need to be given to the internet?
More about the movie, less about the music, but I think it was very representative of what it's like in the real world, where in the opening scenes especially, you notice Mei does everything exactly like her older sister. Where, example, they're running around the house and their dad asked them to find the stairs, right? And he's like, find the stairs for upstairs in the attic so you could open the windows and let some air in. And so the girls are running around the house, opening doors, trying to find the stairs. And like Satsuki goes, opens a door. She says, nope, closes the door. Mei goes to the same door, opens it up, says, no, closes it. And then so she's like following her sister around, doing exactly what her sister does all the time. I thought it was cute. I was like, fuck, that's pretty accurate. Like that's what happens.
That is some real world experience for sure.
Yeah, and it's nice to see that it's not like blown out of proportion, these kind of movies. It's a very realistic, very like personable, very how to say, accessible, I guess. Like to us, like we watch it and we relate. Very relatable. That's the word I was looking for. Relatable.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, very relatable movie. Everything. I think that covers it all. Unless was that your final thought?
That's my final thought. Yeah, this movie was very inspiring. The music for this movie, big major notes. Inspiring. It made you, it had this sound of wonder, of just like imagination, right? That's kind of the whole theme of this whole soundtrack I found.
Absolutely. I think that's perfectly said. Mm-hmm. I obviously, before I give my final thoughts, just a reminder, sponsored by Laser Audio Technologies. Go check them out. Link in the description. Get 25% off if you use code JaianMusic. I'm just doing a whole wrap up here. Give GoPro Q a follow. And I wrote a little blurb here that I kind of wanted to share. I usually just have like thoughts I say, but like my narrative, to me, like it's clear that Joe, his Saishi, oh man, his music is more than just like a backdrop. Isaishi. It's an integral part of the film's magic. His ability to weave innocence, wonder, and nostalgia into every note captivates my attention every day. I love the soundtrack. And I just want to thank everyone for listening to this episode. Thank you, Jacob, for giving it a chance. I know it was a little bit outside of the realm, but I think to me this new podcast, it's kind of if anime podcasters and Soundspace became one, this is what I've always kind of wanted. Just people coming on, just let's talk about our favorite soundtrack. Let's have fun with it. We don't need to be experts about this. We're just fans, trying to connect with more fans.
Yeah. I think it's a fun exercise too, to kind of push people who maybe never thought of watching a movie intently while listening to the music. Like I've never done that. And I'm a sound guy. I work in music, and I've never thought of just like, because when I'm watching a movie, I'm watching the movie. I'm not thinking about the song.
Yeah, the music is like, it's whatever.
It's second, it's in the background for me, even though it's such an integral part of the movie. And so it's a fun exercise. I encourage anybody who's not even working in music or in sound at all, just any regular listener. You could be an accountant. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy the music of My Neighbor Totoro. So go watch the movie, listen to it, and you'll be surprised, and you'll feel very imaginative after.
No, absolutely. And just a reminder: you follow JaianMusic Notes in your favorite podcatcher. Give us a 5-star review. You can find me at JaianMusic on social media, and JaianMusic.com is my website. At least everything else, Jacob. Where can people find you and your work? Which I don't think we went really briefly over it, but like Jacob is a talent, a very very inspirational person in the work that I do. And no, I mean it. I really mean it, Jacob. He's someone who has helped me grow as an audio engineer and as a person, and I really appreciate him and his time and to come on this podcast and everything. So I really want to encourage people to go like explore your world and what you do and your website and your work. And if you're in Montreal and you're looking for someone to like record your music and or anything, like please take it away, Jacob. Like what do you do? What do you offer? Like what sets you apart from the others?
Sure, man. You could find everything you need to know on my website, www.mixwithjacob.com. If you have any questions or you just want to learn more about what I'm doing, what I'm up to, what my life is all about, you could go follow me on Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram. You can go at mixwithjacob and reach out if ever you have any questions. I'm a recording and mixing engineer, mostly mixing, specializing mostly in the pop genres and its subgenres.
Amazing. Thank you so much. You got a really concise plug, man. I got to work on mine.
That's from the years of making content and running paid advertising.
There you go, man.
Are you a self-releasing pop artist putting out at least one song every 2 months? I'll mix and master your next song within 72 hours of our scheduled mix date. I know the scripts by heart, dude. Like I've been doing that.
I love it, man. That's how you gotta do it, though. That's the thing. Amazing. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and for myself and Jacob, this has been another episode of JaianMusic Notes, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Ciao.